So yesterday we had a discussion about simple present tense, also called as present indefinite tense. So let's make headway today, and the topic for today is present continuous tense, also called as present progressive tense. So if I had to define present continuous or present progressive tense, then I would say it is an action in progress, in continuity. So let's look at the narrative voices. In first person narrative voice, I could say, I am working. In second person narrative voice, I can say, you are working. Third person narrative voice, he is working, she is working, it is working, they are working. So these are the examples. So today let's focus on what are the uses of continuous or progressive tense, what are their functions and what is the purpose, when and where do we use this tense. So let's begin. Uses of present continuous tense, 12 rules. The first rule says, to describe an action in progress and continuity, you can use present continuous tense, which means an action is happening right at the moment when the speaker is speaking. So you have no option but to use present continuous tense. Here comes the second rule, and that is to depict means to show or portray an immediate future event or arrangement which is temporary. So if you observe these four examples, there is a pattern which is similar to all the four examples, and that pattern is that all these four examples will have an event or planning or arrangement which is not going to last for a long time. Did you get it? I hope you understood. If you observe these four examples, you will understand that an action or event is taking place in these examples which are not permanent, which is just momentary. Let's observe the first example. What are you planning for tomorrow? Imagine that your friend catches up with you. It's weekend and he comes to your home and asks you, hey guy, what are you planning for tomorrow? Let's go somewhere at the beach side. So in such cases, we use present continuous tense. Let's leap on to example 2. When are you shifting? You are getting transferred to another place and your neighbor asks you, when are you shifting? When are you shifting to Paris? So in such cases, we use, V plus ing. Again, this is in present continuous tense. Third example is your reply to the question. I'm moving tomorrow itself. I'm getting shifted tomorrow itself. So again, this is in present continuous tense. The fourth example is the wedding is going to take place next Sunday. So whether it is your transfer, your shift or your weekend plan or the wedding that is about to take place, there is one thing common among the four, and that is a momentary or temporary event which is taking place in the immediate future, and in such situations and scenarios we use present progressive or continuous tense. So comes rule number 3, and that is for an action that's not happening at the time of speaking, but the action is in progress or continuity, use present continuous tense. Now, what is the meaning of this definition? That in these examples, you will find an action which is not currently happening, but that thing is regular, but that thing is in progress. Let's have a look at the examples. First example is, what are your kids doing these days? Imagine that you catch up with your long lost cousin after a long time, after so many years. Your cousin is asking you this question: what are your kids doing these days? So in such cases, we use present continuous tense. Second example is your reply to the cousin. They are studying in Stephens. They are currently studying. But does it mean that your kids are studying that very moment? No. Your kids may be doing some other work. Your kids may be visiting their friend's house. But what does this mean? That they are currently studying in St. Stephen's College, and this is an action that is happening on a regular basis. Periodically, it's happening as a cyclic action. So I hope you understood it. Third example is, and what are you doing? Your cousin is is inquiring about you, and you say, I am teaching in a school. Okay, it's not necessary that you should be inside a school that very moment teaching the students. No, it means that you are employed and you are teaching in a school, and that's happening on a regular, frequent basis. Fourth example is, my husband is working as an assistant professor, as an electronics engineer. So again, we use present continuous tense. So even if the action is not happening at that point of time, at that moment, but we use present continuous tense when the action is happening periodically on a regular basis. Here comes rule number 4, and that is, use present continuous tense for interrogative sentences happening at that particular moment. I hope you know what is an interrogative sentences. It's a question, a sentence that is a question. Example 1, your friend comes to your home and you are nowhere to be seen, and your friend inquires, what is she doing? Is she cooking the food? Is she reading the book? So in such scenarios, in such situation, we use present continuous tense. Now look at the second example. Hey, Alice, which newspaper are you buying? Which newspaper are you buying on a regular basis, on a daily basis? It's present continuous tense. The third example is, what is Alice doing in the party? Imagine that you've gone for a birthday celebration and you see your friend there. You have never expected your friend there, and you say immediately, what is she doing in the party? What is Alice doing? In such situations, again we use present continuous tense. Fourth example is your phone working properly? So imagine that your phone is out of charge and you are asking your friend, because you want to make an urgent call, and you ask your friend, is your phone working properly? Because you want it for that right moment. So in such scenarios or contexts, use present continuous tense if you are to frame an interrogative sentences. Rule number 5. If you put am, is or are auxiliary verbs in front of the subject, then make sure that you insert ing. Inserting ing means present continuous tense. For example, in these 3 examples, this is the subject, right? So in front of the subject, when there are verbs like am, is or are, you have to necessarily use ing. For example, are you listening? There is no option with us other than using ing form. Are you coming for the party? Third example is, what am I doing here? So all these examples represent present continuous tense. What am I doing here? What am I waiting for? Okay. Here comes the 6th rule, and that is, with auxiliary verbs like am, is, are, with not, use present continuous tense. It means that when you are making use of these 3 auxiliary verbs along with negative, okay, you have to use present continuous tense. Look at the examples. I am not going there. I'm not going to the party. So the only option we have is using ing here along with auxiliary verbs. They are not willing. Again, ing. Okay. Third example is, she is not going home. So if mandatorily there is a not in between, then it's going to be a present continuous tense. So next is rule 7, and it says, for something which is changing or developing, progressing, upgrading, I can use the word transition. It's in change. So in such cases, we can use present continuous tense. For example, the first example is, I'm so happy that my English is improving. Look at this sentence. It is in present continuous. Why it is in continuous form? Because I have still not achieved that perfection. I'm still in that process. I'm still in the passage. So but I'm happy that it is improving. It is in the process. Second is, it is dangerous that the climate is changing. It has not achieved a complete change. It has not achieved a complete metamorphosis. Okay, it is changing. We can see the symptoms. So in such cases where there is a transition, movement from one change to another, we can use present continuous tense. The third example is, he is growing up so fast. Imagine that your aunt meets you after a long time and she gives this comment, hey, you're growing up so fast. He's growing up so fast. So he is growing is in present continuous tense. Here comes rule number 8, and that is, use present continuous tense whenever there is a contrast or a contradiction. For example, when you want to use some comparison or contrast, use present continuous tense. These days, people are wearing Western dresses more than traditionals. So it's a present continuous tense. Second is, we are using mobiles instead of reading books. Okay, or you could say, They are playing with mobiles instead of studying. So in these cases, whenever there is a contrast comparison, you can use present continuous tense. So let's get rule 9 to work. Here you need to understand stative verbs and the opposite is dynamic verbs. So what is a stative verbs? Anything that is all about thoughts, emotions and feelings is a stative verb, and action words are dynamic verbs. So the thing what I want to say here is we do not use present continuous tense in stative verbs. We use present continuous tense only for dynamic verbs. Okay, let's have a look at the stative verbs. That is guess, believe, assume, suspect, sense, love, dislike, like, realize, wish. So what did you observe here? They are all abstract. Okay, they are not action. It's all a feeling or thinking in your mind. So you cannot use present continuous tense here. In case you use, it's incorrect. You cannot say I am guessing, I am believing, I am loving you, I am disliking it. All this is wrong. I am wishing it. You use all this only in simple present tense or present indefinite tense. Now other words are measure, cost, weigh and all. It's weighing. All this is wrong. It's containing, it is costing. These kind of constructions are grammatically incorrect. Let's see, dynamic verbs are action words, and only in dynamic verbs we use the ing form, and that is he is running, eating, walking, etc. So this is rule number 10, and it says with indefinite adverbs like always, constantly, continually, forever, continuously, the list goes on and on, we have to use present continuous tense. Okay, example 1, she's always screaming. Okay, I'm constantly forgetting. So along with adverbs of indefinite frequency, okay, there is a bigger list than this which we need to know. We always use PCT, present continuous tense. Rule number 11, you need to know the list of time indicators. Some of them are mentioned here: now, these days, at the moment, currently, right now, still. So with these time indicators, we normally use present continuous tense. For example, he is leaving right now or at the moment. These days, he is improving. He is still recovering. So all these are the examples or sentences for present continuous tense. Moving on to the final rule. Okay, so the 12th rule says plans or whatever you have organized, arrangements for the future, when written in negative, you need to use present continuous tense. Okay, we had discussed this earlier as rule number 2, but plans and arrangements which are kept for the future time, when they are written in negative, also we can use PCT. Example, we are not moving to Delhi next week. I'm just postponing it. Okay, we are not moving to Delhi. I'm postponing. Next example is I'm not taking him to the tournament. So you are pretty sure, damn sure that you have decided that you are not going to take him. So in that case, you can use present continuous tense. The next example is I am leaving at 3. I'm not leaving at 3. All these are the other examples. So I hope this topic is crystal clear.